Hello, and welcome to another VERBUS Diablo, where I, Camden Cornell, read to you from my book, Ars Granorum, The 16 Arts of Witchcraft. Isn't it fun to be read to? I think so. So today I chose to read from the chapter titled Hedgecraft and the subtitle Familiar Spirits. You may also want to find a familiar spirit that will help you in your craft work and gathering information, a spirit with whom you have a friendship and can send on magical errands. These can take the shape of animals, but are usually powerful spirits who take a form compatible with your own nature. Sometimes they simply arrive at your side or have been with you for many years before you notice them, or you may search and never find one. Because of the symbiotic nature of this relationship, you and your familiar must both get something out of the relationship, and a contract will be made to ensure that neither party is left resentful. What is asked of you can be as simple as companionship, or to make daily offerings, but sometimes you may be asked to do a certain kind of work, such as healing, teaching, etc., that different spirits will want to help you perform. I have spirits that prefer divination work, others that prefer healing, and some that prefer retribution work. The task will depend on the relationship between you and the spirit, and if the contract isn't upheld, the spirit may leave entirely, not show up when summoned, or start to play tricks on you to get your attention. So be aware and do as you promise your familiars you will do. The relationship between a witch and a familiar is one of the best known aspects of the craft, though that relationship is certainly not guaranteed. It is something to be sought after respectfully and deeply cherished. We know that familiars often take an animal form and have names like Pyewacket or Grey Malkin, come to the witch as the spirit itself, or can even take on human form like the familiar of Bessie Dunlop, a spirit who she called Thomas Reed. She said Tom Reed came to her in about 1572, and that he was at one time a human soldier, a barony officer, who had been killed at the Battle of Pinkie. He looked like a dapper old man who carried a white wand. She said he lived with the fairies of Elfham, and would advise her on how to heal people, where lost things could be found, and even foretold the death of her child and her husband's recovery from a severe illness. After she was arrested for witchcraft, Bessie told her questioners that Tom Reed had been ordered to help her by the Queen of Elfham, who had disguised herself as an old woman, knocked on Bessie's door and asked for a cup of water, which Bessie happily gave. Though Bessie Dunlop was a boon to her community, she garnered unwanted attention, which eventually led to her being sentenced to death by strangulation and burning, never seeing help from either her clients or Thomas Reed. The spirits do as they do and must always be considered wild, even if they are your helpful friend. And in some cases there is nothing they can do to help you if you should get into trouble, so you must always be cunning. The witch at some point may also meet the fetch mate, a being which Lee Morgan compares to incubi and succubi due to their more often than not sexual relationship with the witch. These are daemonic, not demonic, a Christianized idea of malevolent spirits in the service of Satan. A type of familiar spirit which exist as arbiters between humanity, gods, and the realm of spirit. They are often tutelary and sometimes take a sexual interest in the witch. When I think of the fetch maid, I think of the Grigori, or Watchers, the angels which were set to watch man in the Book of Enoch, but developed relationships with humans and begat a new angel hybrid, the Nephilim. Some consider witches to be the descendants of the Nephilim, but I think a less elitist way of looking at it is to think of the relationship between a tutelary spirit and a witch as essential to learning the deepest ways of working with your personal power, perhaps with a sexual component, perhaps not. And if you want to know more about hedgecraft, familiar spirits, working with spirits, finding spirits, leaving the body, all of that stuff, then pledge to the Kickstarter. This book is currently available on Kickstarter. We have about 15 days to go, maybe less, depending on when I get this video up. And it would be very, very helpful if you would pledge and win a bunch of really cool stuff along with the book. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time for another VERBUS Diablo.